ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again to another live broadcast here from the Morgan Podcasting Network. My name is Rod Morgan. I will serve as your host of Balls and Brew, the sports program here on the network, the non-sports entertainment sports, I guess you could say. We will touch on sports entertainment sports here after a little bit. I'm going to start the show by saying Happy New Year. We are recording this on January the 2nd. Jimmy, my question to you, James Thomas Jamriska, the executive producer of this podcast, is at what point do you have to stop wishing people Happy New Year? Clearly, I'm okay on January 2nd, but at what point do we have to stop saying Happy New Year?
First week of January when that's over. So honestly, I'm thinking people are still kind of off work-ish because of the New Year. So I think the end of next week, it's over.
End of next week. Okay, you have an inflated date there. I'm gonna give a different date, but let's bring in the third member this week. We are a man down, but let's bring in the third member this week, our football handicapper. He's the man that's crunching the numbers. He's the man that's making the plays. He's the man that has suffered excruciating losses this year. So many losses by half a point. He's our guy. He's Josh Williams. Josh, hello.
What's up, boys? I'm going to go with, January 5th.
January 5th is my guess as well, Williams. That's what I say, right? You can have up until the 5th because, Jimmy, ultimately you are correct. You're trying to be nice here, and you're saying if you run into somebody later and you know them from work, you should say Happy New Year. But I say no. Stop it. Get rid of it all. All right? We know it's an unspoken Happy New Year, and we all move on after the 5th. Okay. I have another cold, open question. I did not let either of you gentlemen know that I was going to ask this. You both love when I do this, but it's really ultimately pretty harmless. Jimmy, I'm going to start with you. Everyone get asked this around this time of year. We all have an answer. Rarely do any of us follow through, but Jimmy, your resolution for the podcast this year. What is your resolution for the podcast this year?
I really think getting our TikTok stuff up a little bit more and getting some more views on what we do. It's kind of what we need to figure out there. Have a little bit more time to get views up.
Jimmy, that is an earnest and true answer. I love that out of you. My resolution for the podcast is not as earnest as yours. Mine is, of course, a little more humorous. Mine is I'm going to take it easier on Chris. All right, I am. Chris is not here with us this week. He is away on assignment, but I'm going to take it easier on Chris, Jimmy. Now, Williams, what I mean by that is I'm still not going to let Chris off the hook, right? If he's got some sort of crazy, insane theory, I'm going to pin him up against the wall a little bit. But there's some times where I'm a little bit too dipped in acid when I'm taking it our good friend, the old man. So my resolution is that I will be nicer to Chris this year. Williams, your resolution for the podcast is what?
Maybe to get you guys more on board with college basketball, like before March Madness swings around.
Okay.
Maybe we could have a couple lead ups because college basketball, state of Indiana, is fantastic. I love March Madness. I love the tournament. It's the best tournament in all of sports. So yeah, maybe get you guys. I know you guys love the NBA, but maybe get you guys a little bit more interested in college basketball.
I was about to turn it to the NBA there and say, well, you could definitely interest me in Ron Harper's kid updates near the end of the year and Cooper Flagg updates near the end of the year, right? I mean, the boys that are going to be at the top of my draft board, I'll definitely follow those guys.
Yeah, and Ron Harper's kid, Dylan, is not playing tonight against IU. So it would be in IU's best interest to win a home game when Dylan Harper is not playing.
Nice. Love that right there. Williams, let's do an update on our wins league record right now before we talk a little bit of college football. I'm wearing the Irish sweatshirt here. The Irish have just beat Georgia.
Cheer.
We're going to get to that in just a second. But Williams, what's the wins league looking at going into the final year here? The final, not year, week.
Yeah, complete opposite for my picks. I've been running like pure gold in the wins league. I had another 7 wins last week, so I'm up to 85 wins.
Man.
And then Chris, Rod, and Jimmy, you guys all had 3 wins last week. So Chris is at 52, Rod is at 64, and Jimmy's at 55. That means Chris needs 3 wins more than Jimmy in week 18 when we have partial starters playing, partial bench players playing, to catch Jimmy for third place.
I have solidified second. I feel good about that. Williams, you were putting up a huge wins league total. You knew the teams that were going to win. As you said, you've given yourself a little bit of guff about this. You knew the teams that were ultimately going to win, but you weren't able to parlay those winning teams into too many wins throughout the year. But that's all right. Such is gambling. Jimmy Jam, speak for yourself going into the final week of the year. How do you feel? Will you be in the basement? Will you topple our old man friend?
Oh, I'm going to continue to win. I am very, very good at NFL predictions, and Chris is not. So I'm gonna do very well. I think in the final week, the Giants are going to win again because the Giants are going to giant. So I'm fine with it.
Oh, Jimmy. All right, fine. All right. I know some of our
That's called
fans
the
out
lead-in,
there,
kids.
they are waiting. They've been wondering what in the world. I will say, Jimmy just brought them up right there. The New York Giants, Indianapolis. Jimmy. Hey, Jimmy Bob, turn it up. All right. I don't know if you're watching live or if you catch later in podcast form, my man, but turn it up. All right. That you thought it was bad when you had to come down into the locker and say Carson Wentz was never going to quarterback your football team again, my man. That was nothing compared to what your team did when they went to New York and laid an egg last Sunday. This Giants team hasn't looked that good in 2 years. Okay. Drew Lock hasn't looked that good ever in his career. Every single person out there said the Giants did not want to win, should not want to win. And what did they do? They went out there and looked like an absolute world beater. You had guys that looked like they were quitting. A Rich, we know nothing about him. Then all of a sudden we're told that he's not going to play. People start questioning Richardson. And then it comes out that he absolutely couldn't walk at points during the week. What is going on down in Indianapolis? Gus Bradley shouldn't have been allowed. See, Jim,
Yes.
I'm fired up.
Yes.
I can't even speak correctly. When I start misspeaking, you know I'm mad. You shouldn't even let Gus Bradley on the plane and leave New York. You let him come all the way back to Indianapolis. You let his key card work to get in the building. You let him come out and say a bunch of nonsense at press conferences on Tuesday. No accountability in that building whatsoever. I don't know that I want to advocate for a complete clean house because in my old advanced age, I see the chaos that constantly churning through people creates for sports teams. But what happened on Sunday is a disgrace. And if Jim Irsay has a reputation for being crazy, why wasn't he crazy? He just started firing people immediately. Jimmy, you're down there a little closer to the fire. What happened? Why did we not just get immediate firings? Why is he allowing everybody to play this last week versus Jacksonville?
Well, you can't fire everybody, Rod. I guess you could. He just wants to get it over with, and then I think there's going to be a lot of discussion on if we just take care of everything. Every single team in the AFC South has won 2 AFC South championships over the past decade, at least. Colts have won 0. Anthony Richardson it still hasn't played a full 17 games, in his career, so we don't really know where he is with that. And Steichen he seems like a good guy, but all these reports coming out, apparently anyone can do anything they want to in a locker room.
I saw some of those too. That's bad, right? Everybody loves the cool uncle when the cool uncle is like just sending them like their first print CD, right? You know what I mean? Like you get your uncle sends you your first print CD because your parents say Prince is too explicit for you to have, and that's cool, right? But then when your parents actually leave you with the uncle for a couple hours and you come home and there's marshmallows all over the wall and mom's vase is broken, right? And the kid is absolutely puked all over the couch because he did nothing but eat candy all night long and drink soda pop. That doesn't really work. And it seems as if that's what's going on down in Indianapolis. Williams, you are our coaching guru on this podcast. You are a personnel guru on this podcast, our coordinator guru. What is the answer for my Colts?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, first of all, Gus Bradley he should not have even come back this year. Like similar to Matt Eberflus with Chicago going into this year, they shouldn't have brought him back. And so I think Chris Ballard needs to probably go. Like Jimmy said, he's been the GM for 8 years, and we can all probably agree that the AFC South hasn't been the best division, and he has yet to win a division title with the Colts. When I found that out, I was surprised. I thought that for sure the Colts had won a division in the last 8 years. So, it's just that was a pathetic showing. That's 3 out of the last 4 years where coming down to the last 2 weeks, you could have possibly made the playoffs, and you put up that stinker. So, yeah, no bueno for the Colts.
All right, fine. We will not be talking any more about the Colts the rest of this podcast, the rest of this year. Perhaps they'll come up at the draft. Let's move on to happier things for certain football fans in Indiana. If you're not an Irish fan and you're from Indiana, you're still okay in my book, but you should be an Irish fan. And they won. They beat the Georgia Bulldogs in the delayed Sugar Bowl. The game wrapped up just a couple hours ago, 23-10. I will admit early on in the game, I was a little worried. It looked like Georgia was a little faster, a little bigger, a little stronger, and it looked like Notre Dame was going to have to win through trickery. Then there were a whole lot of orange flags. It seemed like every time there was a huge play in that game, there was an orange flag that was thrown. But Notre Dame comes out on top. And Williams, I will say, I think Notre Dame came out on top because of coaching, aggressive coaching. Marcus Freeman going for it on fourth down paid off for Notre Dame more times than it didn't. And you talk about that so often.
Yeah, and I also got to give props to Al Golden, who I think is the best defensive coordinator in the country. He loses Morrison, maybe the best corner in the country, earlier this year, and they didn't lose a step. And they lost Riley Mills before this game. They're probably their best defensive tackle, and they came out and they shut Georgia down 10 points. And the more this game got closer and closer to game time, I felt like at ease, like a just a confidence that you normally don't get with a Notre Dame versus an SEC team. But we saw the SEC. I mean, look, Tennessee loses by 25 points to Ohio State in the first round of the college football playoff. Oklahoma loses their bowl. A&M loses their bowl. Alabama turns the ball over on the first three possessions, loses to Michigan in that bowl game. South Carolina loses their bowl. And just what I saw from Texas in their first round game with Clemson, even though I took them and they won, I was really not that impressed. And so, yeah, I mean, this wasn't a great Georgia team. So, I mean, Notre Dame, props to them. They went out and won, and they needed to, because it's been a while since Notre Dame has been in this position. But I told everybody on the text thread after the Northern Illinois game, do not panic. And everybody was, this team sucks. This team's not going anywhere. And I said there should be no more letdown games if we just get to the USC game and go from there. I think this team can make the playoff. And that's exactly what they've done. They get a decent draw now with Penn State because I think Ohio State's probably the best team left. So if they can get past Penn State, possibly playing for a national championship in a couple of weeks, that would be fantastic.
Williams, are you trying to tell our good listeners that I might be prone to an overreaction? Is that what you're trying to tell our good listeners? That doesn't seem like me at all.
It's never.
Oh. Jimmy Jam, I want to go to you on Marcus Freeman there because I just think that like a couple of years ago, Notre Dame has a coach that maybe is a tad bit polarizing, but most everybody has to say is a good football coach.
I don't think he's polarizing, Rod.
I guess not anymore, but I was trying to be generous to the man, right? It's around the holidays here. We have a coach that everybody, at least he wins games. He leaves South Bend in the middle of the night. Marcus Freeman gets promoted. Nobody knows anything about him. Is he too young? Should they have not kept this guy around? Is he too much of a player's coach? And 3 years in, it looks like he might be one of the most ready to be a coach in 2025 guys out there, Jimmy. I'm just impressed with Marcus Freeman the more this Notre Dame program rolls along.
And you see things like in tonight's game that you don't see very often. Trick plays here and there, trying to get somebody off balance and it working. It's been a really good hire, and you saw the love when he got the job from the players, and it's continuing on even in this atmosphere of, I want $6 million to go play quarterback for you. So listen, it's been great. It's a great ride. This is a game that Notre Dame has not won in a very, very, very long time. And it's probably because they weren't wearing stupid green jerseys. That's just for the record.
Hey-oh, there we go. Jersey talk. Another thing we love to bring up here on the podcast. Williams, real quickly before we leave the college game, you mentioned it there. We got Texas, who played in a great game to watch, but I'm not sure that you walk away thinking anything great about Texas. Like you already mentioned, they're taking on Ohio State, who looked like a friggin' world beater, at least for the first half of that game versus Oregon. And then you got Penn State Irish. So do you really think we're looking at Buckeyes Notre Dame here coming up? Is that what we got?
Man, that would be fantastic. And I will remind everybody who said that IU shouldn't be in the playoff, those are the only two losses that the Hoosiers took this year. So, I mean,
Chris would be so proud of you right now. Shout out to our guy, Chris.
Yeah. I mean, I still don't get that, because in the 10 years of the college football playoff where there was 4 teams, so those 20 games, 14 of those 20 ended in 2 touchdowns or more. So you were going to get those games regardless. So the fact that everybody was up in arms that Indiana was in over an SEC team just never made any sense to me. So,
All right,
but yeah, I think Ohio State is going to roll Texas. The Notre Dame Penn State game should be a brawl, and I've been down on Penn State for about 30 years, but they've actually played really well. This is the best I've seen Penn State play their last two games in the last 30 years. So, should be a good game in the Orange Bowl down there in a week.
Let's go. That will be happening next Thursday. That will be going on probably while we are recording this podcast, unless we change our recording date. That will be released later. Mr. Williams' overall record picking NFL teams. It's not important. All right. It's not important. What is important? All right.
Not on the betting show. Nope. Not important.
What is important, Jimmy? No, listen, I'll land the plane here. All right. What is important is that he does the work. Okay. He lays the case out for you and he says, this is what I think. You're out there making the plays. Okay. He's not pressing the buttons in on your app. Williams is not behind you making the plays for you. He is just laying out the information as he sees it. And as I see it, he still has one more chance to go 3-0. And like the game of golf, Jimmy, all you got to do is end on a high note. I could shoot a 95, but if I get a birdie on hole 18, I want to come back out the next weekend. So Williams, with that said, let's go 3-0 this week. You picked a couple of games that really matter. We'll go in chronological order. We'll start with the game that will kick at 8:00 on Saturday. Those fighting Cincinnati Bengals taking on my Pittsburgh Steelers. Michael Keaton will be in attendance. Dr. J will be dressed up like his character from The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh. He will be in attendance dressed as that character. Lots of great energy happening in Pittsburgh. I'm told that the rivers will somehow be turned into just Yingling beer. There will no longer actually be any water there. It will just be Yingling beer. Hoagies for everyone. No, hoagies are Philadelphia. I lost the thread there, but you know what I'm saying. It's a big game for the Steelers, big game for the Bengals. Williams, what do you got?
Yeah, and we went 1-2. I went 1-2 last week against the spread. The one game that I won was the don't overthink it game, and the other two was there were some questionable coaching decisions in those other two games, and we'll kind of go against those two coaches in the next couple games. But this game started off here. I'm taking the Steelers plus 2.5 minus 110 on ESPN Bet. There's no way that Tomlin wants to go into the playoffs after losing 4 in a row, and that's what it would be here if Pittsburgh loses this game. But let's remember who have they lost to in these last 3 weeks: Philly, Baltimore, and Kansas City. Those are 3 of the 5 best teams in the league. No shame in that. Steelers getting Jalen Warren involved more in the running game and the receiving game. I like that. They're getting stud cornerback Joey Porter back for this game. And the Steelers know that if they win, they get the 5 seed, which is the most ideal wild card spot in the AFC because you get the Texans. So, and they're really reeling right now. On the other side, after watching that fiasco of Zach Taylor's clock management last week, there is no way I trust him or his injury-riddled defense to come into Pittsburgh and beat this Steelers team that has lost their last 3 games. Steelers are also on extended rest here. They haven't played since Christmas. I know Burrow's playing out of his mind. He can only mask his head coach and this defense so much. Give me the Steelers at home plus 2.5. The terrible towels will be out on Saturday night.
Love it. Let's go. I kind of still want to see Cincinnati get into the playoffs, so I need them to win this game. I know our guy Chris is rooting for the Bengals. Jimmy, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I agree. I'm going with Chris on this one. I'm going my heart instead of my head. I think the Bengals are a great story. I think Joey B's having a terrific season with no help. Defense is getting a little bit better. Pass catchers are obviously there. I would love to see Cincinnati win this, and I think Pittsburgh's going to go down again.
Yeah, man, because if Cincinnati doesn't win this, we're left with this stinky Broncos team in the playoffs. Williams, let's just dispatch with this Broncos team right now. They're taking on the Carson Wentz-led Kansas City Chiefs. Let's go. No, let's not go. Carson Wentz, I can't stand you, Carson Wentz. I'm so thankful that you aren't. Actually, I'm not thankful that you aren't somehow involved in my Colts season because I wish that we still had a shot for the playoffs and we didn't choke it away last week. But we all know my thoughts on that. So let's focus on this game, Williams. The Chiefs, do they want to win this game? Will they try to go into the playoffs with only 1 loss, or are they basically just going to punt it away to allow Sean Payton into the playoffs?
Yeah, so I don't know if you're aware of the line here, but if let's just say everybody's playing for Kansas City in Denver, I think that line should be like KC -4. Now we take Mahomes out of the equation. Mahomes is worth on average about 7 or 8 points. So that gets you to about, Denver -4, -5 here. The line for this game is 10.5. I am taking the Chiefs plus 10.5. I know this is no Mahomes. There's possibly no other starters on defense. I know it's Carson Wentz. I know. I get all that. I still think this is just way too many points.
Yeah.
And 3 out of the 4 games in the Andy Reid Chiefs era where they have rested starters in Week 18, they have covered in those games. So I just think 10.5 is way too much here. And you have a young Denver team that has not made the playoffs since 2015. We always see this, man. We always see where a team has to win Week 17, Week 18 against a team that has nothing to play for. And that team that has nothing to play for goes out, plays loose, and the other team is squeaky bum time fourth quarter, and they end up losing the game or not covering. So give me the Chiefs. I'm not overthinking it. I'm not overthinking any of these plays here this week. Give me the Chiefs plus 10.5.
Okay, Williams, you don't love it when I do this, but I'm pinning you down anyway. What do you actually think is going to happen here? Do you think the Chiefs are just going to get beat by the Broncos, but they're covering the 10.5s, or do you think the Chiefs will actually beat the Broncos and give the Bengals a chance to make the playoffs? Or I guess the Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, I think they cover, and I think this is a game in the fourth quarter. I know everybody just thinks that Denver's going to, beat them handily, but I just don't see that, man. I just don't see that. Like I said, Denver's a young team. I think it's in the balance. I think it's a 3 or 4 point game in the fourth quarter. It can go either way.
All right. So once again, Jimmy, he refused to tell me if he thought that meant that Denver was winning or losing. So I will move on and ask you, Jimmy, what is the actual outcome of this game for Bengals and Dolphins fans? Because we know you have a power of kind of swaying things if you really want to. So put your thumb on the scales here, Jim.
Congratulations to the Denver Broncos. I'm picking the Chiefs to outright win this game in a huge upset, kind of. But Carson, he will show us why he was worth all that draft capital from the Colts a couple years ago. But I do have Kansas City winning outright this game, and either Cincy or Miami going to the playoffs.
There we go. Williams, I don't know if you're prepped for this, but I have a feeling that you probably can. What does Miami need to happen to be the team that ends the day in the playoffs?
Yeah, they just need Denver to lose, and then they have to beat the Jets, but it's going to be without Tua, it's looking like. And so they're going to have to go with Tyler Huntley in New York versus the Jets.
Jets have A-Rod, though, so that's good.
Yeah.
Hey, that's right. No Aaron. Yeah, there we go. All right. Well, let's move on to borrow a term from the Rose Bowl and apply it to the NFL, the granddaddy of them all. We are ending the year with a game almost like any other. I'm not sure the NFL has ever had a game like this. 2 teams with this many victories battling out to win the NFC North. One of these teams is going to be a wild card team, Williams. That is absolutely wild to think about when it comes to the NFC playoffs. We kept counting out Sam Darnold all year. Well, maybe not you and us collect, but you know what I mean. People just kept saying, when is Darnold going to turn into a pumpkin? It hasn't really happened. The Detroit Lions have no one on defense, but they keep fighting for Dan Campbell. What do you got for us handicap-wise?
Maybe my best call of the year, I said Sam Darnold is going to be a top 10 fantasy quarterback this year. And yeah, so maybe there's something to hang my head on. I'm going with, I know it's square. I know this is probably maybe the most square bet I've made all year. I'm going Minnesota, Detroit over 56, -110 on Caesars. Tell me, who is getting stops in this game? I mean, these 2 offenses, Kevin O'Connell, Ben Johnson, they are clicking. I mean, Detroit scored 40 out there in San Fran the other night, and Minnesota, I mean, they put up these 2 teams combined for 60 points the first time they played. So this is the highest over-under posted by the books the entire year, the last regular season game of the year, maybe the most meaningful regular season Week 18 game in the history of the NFL, like you were saying, Rod. One team will have 14 wins and then will have to win 3 games on the road to get to the Super Bowl. The NFL has to change that. They have to change that.
Why do they have to change it, though? This is the first time ever. Like, it happened. Move on.
But there's 9 or 10.
Gotta change it.
There's 9 or 10 terrible teams in the NFL, and that's why you're seeing 3 or 4 of these top teams, 14, 15 wins. they have to get a home game. If you win 14 games, you have to get a home game. Reseed them
Be
as
better.
a 2
They
seed.
could have beaten the Lions and the Vikings more.
I'm
Also,
with you. Win this game. That's how.
Yeah,
That's
win
how
it.
you win this game.
Also, this is terrible
Or the
because
Packers, whatever.
if you're a 5 seed, they're going to end up they could possibly end up playing each other in the second round. That's why you have to reseed this. It's not just for the first round.
No, let's just get the best. Listen, let's get the best games out there. What do you and I care? We're not Lions fans. We're not Vikings fans. What boo-hoo for them? Whatever. The Purple People Eaters. Who cares? Let's go. The only thing I know about Detroit is that WrestleMania 3 was there and it was a big deal. All right. That's the only thing I know about Detroit. Nothing else matters. Cars, whatever. Motown, whatever. Doesn't matter. Sorry, Detroit. That was just for the bit.
I was at that one. That was good too.
That was just for the bit. Also, WrestleMania 23. Exactly. We'll talk more about wrestling there soon. All right, there we go. I see this game coming down to Kevin O'Connell's crowning achievement. All right, we've got a little more momentum for him here these past couple of weeks that he has to be coach of the year. And so I think this is just going to be another phenomenal game plan by him. I think Dan Campbell and the boys are going to fight, and they're going to fight hard because that's what they do. But I think Darnold has shown and O'Connell has shown they're good when it comes to late game situations. They might be one of the best coach teams in the league. I think that matters in a game this tight. Give me the Vikings crowning achievement. Jimmy, your thoughts?
It's the Lions. It's Dan Campbell. I'm all in. They're going to win. I love what he did last week. Let's just keep it going. Play for him. Play hard. Go Lions. Sorry, Lions fans.
Williams, I have one other question for you that you did not prep for, but I have a feeling you'll still have a good answer. What do you think about Saquon Barkley sitting and not going for the record?
I mean, it's smart for their playoff chances. I think I just kind of knowing Saquon, he's not all about the records. He just wants to win, and he really has had his 16 games. Eric Dickerson set that record in 16 games. Saquon's had 16 games, so he's kind of had his chance. And I mean, Saquon just wants to win, man. He's been on so many bad Giants teams that he just wants to win, man. So I think this is actually a smart move by Sirianni, which I don't know if we have seen too many from him this year. But
look at you, Williams. Look at you. That was exactly how I was going to turn it and go to Jimmy real quick and be like, Jimmy, turns out a smart move was made by our guy Nick Sirianni there. Williams, that's why you are the NFL handicapper. Any last nuggets you need to circle back to or drop for the folks before Jimmy and I move on to some NBA basketball?
I don't know if I should say this or not because I don't know if I want to jinx it, but I'm with Jimmy. I am rooting for the Lions here because I have a 10-team or 10-leg future cross-sport parlay, and I've hit the first 9, and I need Detroit I need Detroit to win this game to win the division. Detroit has 14 wins, and I can't win this bet before week 18. The last they're going to make me sweat it out week 18, last regular season game. So. Yeah, we'll see what's going. We'll see it happens.
A 10-team cross-sport parlay, Jimmy. I really had no idea how big of a degenerate we had in our hands. Oh my God, what is this like Major League Lacrosse, like darts? Like what sports are we crossing here?
No, so this was part of the hedge of the Minnesota Lynx New York Liberty Game 5 fiasco. When I could have won Lynx 35-1 to win the WNBA champions, I said I better put the Liberty on a future parlay here, and so that's what we got. Mostly college football playoff. Who made the college football playoff? I thought that in the first year the books were pricing these teams wrong, and so and then a few other division winners. And I thought Detroit was for sure a win. Like that, I thought that was one of the easiest ones, and it's going to come down to Detroit winning the division. So
it's going to come down to my boy Kevin.
30-1 on this ticket.
Of course it is. You know what you're doing. That's a great play. I hope you win it. I did pick against you, saying that my guy Kevin O'Connell's crowning achievement, and the Vikings are going to win that. But let's pull.
I won't blame you. I won't blame you if Minnesota wins.
But let's pull for that for you because it's been a tough week bringing the 3 picks to the podcast every week. So let's pull for that for you, Mr. Williams. Thank you so much. We'll have you back next week to wrap up the final week of the year. Talk about going into the playoffs. Jimmy Jam, we're down a man, but I think you and I can still run a 2-man pick and roll.
Welcome to the Fast Break, the fastest 15 minutes in the NBA. Jimmy and Rod are here. Chris is not here, unfortunately, so we will not have the Kings hardwood hierarchy this week. However, we do have the reigning, the defending Wins League champion is still here. Week 10. Rod, this is it finally actually happened. I did not have to win a game from last week to this week to still be winning our Wins League champion. I would have been up by one game still. 185 wins for me. I'm good.
Yeah, it's working out pretty well for you. You know that my team tends to rise and fall with the Boston Celtics, and the Celtics are on a bit of a rough patch for them right now. So I'm not putting a lot of W's up there for the Celtics. So that kind of hurts me a little bit there. But hey, listen, you have a way of extracting value in the NBA picks, right? It doesn't go as well for you in the NFL picks, right?
No,
I think you
no.
use the same idea, right? You're trying to extract value in the NFL, but you make a bet in the NFL and it doesn't go right for you. In the NBA, it does. So I gave you the round of applause. You get kudos as the reigning, defending, longest reigning, right? Because basically you ran
I
this
haven't
board
ever
last year.
Yeah, this is like a 2-year streak. I put all my money in on Cleveland in both sports.
Yeah.
The only issue was one of them had Deshaun Watson, the other did not, and that's why I'm doing so well.
I laughed at you for both.
There.
Also, to be
Yeah,
fair,
you did.
I laughed at you for both, and I was only right one time.
You were only right one time. We have an All-Star game coming up, Rod.
That's so weird.
Yeah. It's I don't really know how the game is going to be played. And how these there's 4 teams right now.
I believe so. I believe it's like the All-Star, right? There's 24, right? Because you got 12 and 12. So divide them by 3, or divide them by 3 teams, get you 8, 8, 8, right? And then I think it's the sophomores and the rookies, right? Like whatever team wins that thing the night before.
It is funny because I've heard this said multiple times. You know, when you're playing pickup in the gym, you don't want 2 subs. You never want 2 subs. You should have just gone with 6, 6, 6, 6, and 6 and been done with it. But
doesn't this go to the fact that none of these guys really want to play anyway? So they're going to have more subs because these guys still aren't going to want to play minutes even in this format, right? Like we're desperate to try to get these guys to play, and they're just not going to. I think the closest we ever got to it was that Elam ending the 1 year where everybody wanted to honor Kobe. That was the closest we ever got to dudes playing hard.
Well, the NCAA football, they figured it out. You know, people were always just going to the pros, not playing in bowl games. This tournament has helped that a lot. Okay, so a lot more teams have a lot more players going. Maybe this will help too. But our winners right now, as far as the fan vote goes, Giannis has 1.7 million votes, followed by our boy Jokic with 1.4 million votes. Rod, have you had a chance to look at these listings so far?
I saw the guards in the Western Conference, and I was surprised to see that Norm Powell, right, big Los Angeles contingent, getting him out into the top 10 of the guards out in the Western Conference. He has played really, really well, right? So when I see things like that, it makes me feel a little bit better about fan voting, right? Because too often you can get a scenario where our guy Pero Antich back in the day made the top 10 in the fan voting, right? And then they had to readjust it. And so when you see something like Norm Powell being in the top 10, you're like, okay, that makes sense to me because he's at least had a good year. So I'm excited for that. But the All-Star this year is like, I may not be excited for the game, but I'm excited to see who makes it in both conferences because there's like 15 to 16 dudes you could easily put on each team.
And that's where I was going next, Rod. At least one of these will not make it. Shea, Luka, Steph, Kyrie, Ant Edwards, James Harden, Ja Morant. Those are 7. I don't think they're getting.
The first answer right now, unfortunately, is probably Luka, right? Like that's the thing we always do in these times where it gets tough to cut guys. You cut for health, and since Luka's out right now, and it seems like it's going to be a couple more weeks, he's probably out right now. So that's the first cut you'd make. But yeah, you're right; those are great guys, and I want to see Ja Morant there just because it's been a rough couple of years for him, and he's an exciting player. But he may lose out to a guy like Steph Curry, Jeff, because where is the All-Star game this year?
I believe it's in Steph Curry's home arena there, so in the Golden State, if you will. So, yeah, he's playing. There's no question about it. He's going to be in there. It's going to be a love fest for
no
Steph.
question. I mean, LeBron's not a guard who we're talking about now, but no question that he's in there as well.
Yeah. Is Victor going to make it?
He has to. Like, honestly, right now, Jim, we're not doing the table. We like to wait until after the All-Star game before we break out the table here on this podcast. But if we were doing the table, Jim, don't you think Victor would have to have a seat? Like, I'm not putting him at the head, but don't you think if we did the table right now, he'd have a seat?
It's like an extended family table, I think. You
Okay,
know,
so if we put like if we put the big
the leaf
wing in the
in. You got
middle
to
and
put
we
the
made
leaf
it
in the
longer.
table. Yeah, I think you
Okay.
put the leaf in the table. Have Victor
Leaf.
on
I
there.
said wing. Look at you. Thank you for the pickup.
It's okay, no problem.
Yeah, you're right.
Let's.
The Spurs aren't good enough to justify him being there, but like he's definitely going to be an All NBA guy, right? I mean, he's definitely going to be a top 15 All NBA guy, so that should mean he's an All Star, right?
You just said it yourself, Rod. There's like 32 people that are worthy of All Star votes right
But
now.
isn't Victor's basically averaging like almost 30 points, double digit rebounds, 4 blocks, and he's shooting like 56% and like 30 something from three. I mean, like that's insane. I mean, I know Jokic is insane, but that's also insane.
And honestly, you don't really have to have. You don't have to have any guards, honestly. So I mean,
Well, because
really,
I think Anthony
that
Davis
that
also
Eastern
is.
Conference, that Eastern Conference get pretty slim.
Well, yeah, but Victor's on the West, so I mean, like
Yeah, no, I know.
Jokic is there, right? But Towns got shipped out from West to East. Okay, so then Davis is a center, but he's been hurt, so he could be the same guy that's out. You know what I mean? What if Rudy Gobert? You're not putting him in there. I think Victor's an All Star, Jim,
Okay, all right. Victor's an All Star.
and Norm Powell. Let's go, Norm
And Norm
Powell.
Powell, definitely Norm Powell as well.
Look, I mean, what? So we got to give James Harden his 13th All Star nod for him to not care. You know what I mean? Like, let's put Norm Powell in that game. He'll play.
Oh, he'll play and he'll love it. And that, you know what? That's a good that's good. To see something a little different. Speaking of a little different, Rod, the Detroit Pistons are knocking on the door of these playoffs with 15 wins. However, Jaden Ivey out for the rest of the year with a broken fibula. They just can't win, can they?
Like it'd be easy if you wanted to say that the Pistons have gotten better because they finally decided to play Jaden Ivey, right? Monty Williams, everybody used to get on him last year for not playing the kid who was a top 5 pick in the NBA draft. And then this year,
Yeah.
Detroit starts playing him a little more and they come around. I don't want to be as reductive as to say that's it, but you got to feel bad for the kid. He seems like a good kid, kept his head down last year when he wasn't getting a lot of playing time, starting to get some burn this year, and now he's out with a broken foot. And that's tough, man. When you rely on quicks and hops and you start to have foot troubles this earlier in a career, that can be bad. So I hope Jaden comes back and plays well because things are looking up for the Pistons. I think Cade Cunningham's going to be on the East All Star team.
I think so too, and that's great for him because he's kind of gone underneath, the vernacular here in the NBA. Just really, no one's talking about him, no one's saying anything about him because he has been in Detroit. They've done so poorly. Speaking of, well, Rod's mad about something. Rod, it's the Rod Damnation of the week.
I have to get a little high minded sometime for who I get angry at. And who I'm angry at right now are the NBA governors and the NBA owners and the NBA's lawyers and the NBA brass themselves, okay? Whoever irons out the collective bargaining agreement between the owners and the players should be absolutely ashamed of themselves right now. What we have done to restrict movement in the NBA is terrible, okay? The Golden State Warriors are desperate to make a move to improve their team. All they can pull off is trading some second round picks to get Dennis Schroeder. That's all they can do. There's nothing else available for them out there because of the restricting rules. And people say, oh no, it's fine. Other trades are going to happen. The Los Angeles Lakers step up to the plate. Another team with old veterans desperate to trade things away to bring in somebody to improve their team. And the best they can do is trade away second round picks and a middling D'Angelo Russell to bring in Dorian Finney-Smith. So, Jimmy, I say to you, I am angry that the NBA brass has taken away one of our favorite things, which are trades. Okay. I want to focus on the games, but trades are still fun. I'm not going to make any bones about that. And this new collective bargaining agreement has hampered two teams that you and I will both agree are desperate to make trades. And all they could do was deal second round picks and bring in middling guys.
Look at me pulling a Rod Morgan there. I've got my mic off, but their teams people want to watch, Rod, and not being able to make moves is hampering that. So I agree with you completely there. I think that the NBA really messed up on this, and the Players Association did too. Like, why would you do this? Uh, Obviously, they wanted people to stay, because you want continuity. You don't want people asking out. Because right now, Jimmy Butler can't say you're trading me to this team. He can't because they can't do it, which is good. I think that is good. But of course, like everything, there's some goods and then there's some bads with it as well. Let's move on to the.
Wait, Jim, real quick.
Yeah.
The sneaky downside here, while we stay on this topic, is that the owners have done, they can start to take heat off of themselves, right, Jim? There is no more a conversation about, oh, that guy's cheap. He's not doing enough for the team, because at some point they basically just gonna say, what do you want me to do? My hands are tied. I literally can't make any trades now because the rules hamper me. So what does that do? It starts to mean guys don't have to pay huge luxury tax bills and NBA governors make more money. So just like the great Dick Ebersol once said, Jimmy, your answer to this and every other question is money.
Of course it is. So, Rod, January is a pretty huge month in the NBA because we have some trades starting, and then we also have starting to get ready for the playoffs. Well, we have some teams that have a really good January schedule and a really bad January schedule. I want to talk to you a little bit about this. Let's talk about the team that has the highest opponents winning percentage at 59.598. Sorry, excuse me. Houston has the hardest strengths of schedule moving forward. I'm a little nervous about our young boys there.
Yeah, that's not really what you want to see when it comes to young guys, as you just mentioned, who haven't really been in the fights, to know that as the games are already going to pick up in intensity due to the lateness in the schedule, they also are going to have to take on tough teams for those games. That doesn't bode well for them. I do believe they are another team that would like to make a trade, but because of these new rules, it's going to be hard for them to pull one off as well. And so I think they're going to sit back and say, okay, I'm just going to do my Oklahoma City Thunder thing here and let's go for 1 year and see what we got. And that might get them all the way to the finals because, I mean, you could tell me Luka doesn't come back and play 100% Luka the rest of the year, right? You could tell me that 40-year-old LeBron and Anthony Davis just break down a little bit. Kevin Durant is lightning in a bottle when he's on the court, but he's already missed a bunch of games. So as tough as we say the West is, I think that anybody could be there. So it's just, I don't know, Jim. The West is going to be rough, and any one little thing could sway the balance.
Speaking of which, Oklahoma City has the third and Denver has the fourth. They each have 3 back-to-backs, too, in January, to think about that for a second. Indiana Pacers are fifth. No back-to-backs. Pacers have actually had a pretty tough run at it as past few weeks here.
The game for them tonight, actually, as we record, beating Miami, a team that they're right in the middle of the frass with. The easiest way to move up and catch the heat is to beat them, which the Pacers did tonight.
So look at who has the easiest schedule in January. They do have 3 back-to-backs, so watch out. But the Milwaukee Bucks have the easiest schedule in January. Opponents winning percentage is .422. So I think that's something to continue to look at, them going up the standings.
I asked you about the table a little bit earlier, Jimmy.
Sure.
If we were doing the table right now, would you put the Greek Freak up there in Milwaukee at the top of your table, or would it be Jokic?
You got to give it. I think you still have to give it to Jokic, Rod. I mean, he's just doing stuff that no one has ever done before. But the fact that Giannis has been able to take the team to where it was to where it is now, let's see what happens in January. But yes,
I'm just, you know me, I'm always a bit of the Jokic doubter on this podcast, right? I've always kind of been the guy who's like, are we sure? Are we sure? And I've had to eat my words, but the fact that Giannis can still even maybe make it an argument just speaks to how good he has been playing this year. And if the rest of those young guys like your AJ Green and your Jackson, I believe it is, Andre Jackson, right? And if those wing players still hold together up there in Milwaukee, they're going to be good, right? The East, everybody wanted to talk about it being down at the beginning of the year, Jimmy. Things are rounding into form. Milwaukee's playing a little bit tougher. If Orlando's guys come back, Philly's starting to round into form a little bit. Like, my Celtics are down, and you said at the top, the Cavs just keep winning. That's what the East is.
Go Cavs. The Lakers and Suns are also in the bottom 5 of opponents' winning percentage. So look for them to maybe get some more wins in there. That will do it for this edition of the Balls and Brew podcast and the NBA Fast Break on the More You Knows Podcasting Network.
You know, if Chris was here, all he was going to do is talk about how great the Cavs were, and nobody needed to hear any more of that.
Welcome to the Yeah We Know podcast, part of the More You Knows Podcasting Network. You're in the ring with Jimmy and Rod. Old school today, Rod.
That's right. Who needs Chris anyway?
This is our final podcast before Raw goes to Netflix. I don't know if you've heard that or not, but Raw is going to Netflix, Rod.
It definitely is. There's been a few promos and a few billboards around and things that have definitely let me know that yes, Raw is Netflix.
I'm excited to see what happens moving forward. They have a little less constraints. Now, you got to remember, they are still on TV in other countries, so there will still be those uh, dives out to the outside. We're going to go to commercial break, things like that. I expect a lot of Netflix ads, a lot of new shows coming up, so that'll help Netflix hopefully as well. But
A
yeah,
lot of
it's
Millie Bobby Brown movies that you've never heard of are going to be promoted during WWE wrestling.
isn't it funny how you're like, that's a huge star, and I had no idea they have like 2 movies out that I don't know about. That's fine.
Let's Raw's not moving to Apple TV, but speaking to that topic, Jimmy, just bump over to Apple TV for a second and jump around on there, and you'll be amazed. Like he's working on a show that's been on for 3 seasons. I had no idea.
Of course, of course. Rod, we get to see it. We get to see Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes. Title versus title at the Royal Rumble in a ladder match. Not going to lie, pretty excited about it.
Absolutely. I love the use of the winged eagle here.
Yes.
Kudos to Triple H. He continues to find interesting ways to tell these stories. I will not back down from my assertion that I think too much of it has been shot with amateur cameras backstage, right? I think we could have figured out a few more ways to have some of these angles happen with the award-winning WWE photojournalists capturing the action for us on their television programs, but I will leave that aside. I'm excited that it's happening at the Rumble. I'm excited that we still have a couple of crazy things that can happen between the two of them before we get there. And Jim, I've asked you this before. What does Kevin Owens really have left for us? I mean, he seems like he's not moving like he used to. Are we going to get the big Kevin Owens spot here? Are we getting the Golden Boy himself taking a huge fall here? Like, what are we going to see at the Luke when you and I are in attendance?
I think Cody's going to retain. Kevin Owens had his WrestleMania moments when he was the main event at WrestleMania against Stone Cold Steve Austin. That was pretty good, I think. And then obviously the tag team title match as well. So I think he's had his. I would love to see him win. This is a match he can win too. I mean, why not? Like you said, Rod, if you want to make Kevin Owens a serious contender, have him win the WWE Championship. You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want.
I love that the brutality of it has come out in a believable way, right? Like you talked on our Yeah We Know He's about how great that Wyatt segment backstage was, where we thought people maybe had died, but we kind of knew nobody had really died, right? And so like sometimes that can get to strain credulity a little bit, but the use of the pile driver, right, with Kevin Owens these couple of times has just been, I mean, it's just been chef's kiss, right? We still haven't seen the Randy Orton of it all, right? I wondered this the other day, Jimmy, and I wanted to bring this by you. John Cena's kind of whole deal is I do things right. I live by a code. I'm for honor, right? He's kind of, he came down and celebrated Cody times before, right? Like, could John Cena maybe enter into the fray a little bit here? Because we know Cena's coming back real soon to get all of his stuff started.
Oh, I think he's going to be there on Monday, and he's going to start with a bang. He's going to declare for the Royal Rumble. He might even say he's going to come out number 1 in the Royal Rumble and just try to win it and go for number 17. Which, Rod,
I hadn't
brings
even
us
considered that.
Yes, which brings us to our annual what or no chance in hell segment. Chris, we are really missing you for this one. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to make anything else, so to Audible. So we're going to do it now. And
this is old school, though. You and I used to do this one back in the day. This is good.
So for those of you who are listening for the first time, I'm going to give Rod a scenario. He's going to say, yeah, it's going to happen. What are you talking about? Or there's no chance in hell that happens. And Rod, I'm going to start off with a banger. Dom cheats on Liv Morgan with someone else and goes with someone else at some point this year.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Rod,
I love it.
The gimmick is, yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry, LA. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's definitely happening. I think I will even give you a name, Jimmy.
What time is it, Rod? No.
Ooh, that was not the name I was going to give you, but I
Okay.
would love to see that from one blonde to another. I kind of felt like maybe we would see the angle of Dom coming back to to his people, right? So he moves to Raquel Rodriguez, right? Basically, the angle is you had your fun with the little temptress. Now come back in, you know what I mean? And we are gonna rule the way that you always should have, right? That's where I think it's gonna go.
I kind of like that too. That's not bad, but I'm going to go Tiffy time. I think he's gonna go with Tiffy time on this one and cheat on Liv. He's tired of her. He's just going to be such a jerk, dude. That
It's definitely his
he's going to
gimmick,
do
right? I mean, you
everything.
don't have a mustache like that, you don't get called a dirty slime ball all the time to not just continue to have this be your gimmick. So I love where you're going here, Jim.
John Cena wins his 17th World Championship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely happening. I hadn't considered him winning the Royal Rumble, and that is juicy as all get out. If he wins the Royal Rumble, I hadn't considered that. I thought for sure it was going to be CM Punk that wins the Royal Rumble, and it still may be. Because hell, it could be John Cena versus CM Punk at WrestleMania. I don't know. But I definitely think that John Cena will end his time with the WWE in this year as the new record holder for most championship reigns. I definitely think why bring him back for one last run? Why hype it up like this if you're not going to ultimately do it?
Because there's no chance in hell that it happens, Rod. I don't think he's going to do it. I think he's going to come close. I think he's going to maybe try it a couple times, but I don't think he's going to get there. He is a huge history person. I think he wants Ric Flair. I mean, Ric Flair. The number is all made up anyway. It doesn't really matter. But
Exactly.
I think Ric Flair's going to have that. So I think no chance in hell that John Cena wins his 17th.
Listen, no, Ric Flair people don't come at me, but Jim, why? How? Why did we decide that Ric
I don't know
Flair gets to be the sainted ghost that no one can beat? Why did we decide that?
who's in charge of the company.
Triple H.
Who's Triple H's favorite wrestler ever?
All right, but well, he certainly hasn't helped his daughter out. He didn't even let her come back. He didn't let her wrestle for a whole entire calendar year.
All right, you're the man of transitions, and I've got this transition for you. I was going to save it till later, but let's do it. Charlotte Flair wins gold at WrestleMania and keeps it for the next calendar year.
Whew. Wow. That might
Rod
be
needs
the
Rod needs a smoke break. Give him a minute.
that might be the happiest I've been on this pod in a while. I love that because that means she has to come back before WrestleMania. I would hope they wouldn't just pop her up surprisingly at WrestleMania to win the belt. I hope we see her on Monday, to be honest with you, but I don't know if that's the case. If we're going to see John Cena and The Rock, you know what I mean? Where then Charlotte kind of gets buried. So I'm going to say yes, Jim. I'm going to say
Wow.
yes. I'm going to say you're giving me all these are catnip for me. You haven't made me want to go against you. Excuse me. I'm going to say yeah.
I think there's no chance in hell that she's going to keep it for a year. So much has happened over the past few years with injuries and things like that. I don't think she's going to be able to hold it for that long, but I do think she wins it at WrestleMania, though.
I'd love to have that happen. I really would. Just come back, Charlotte, please. Come back,
Speaking of
Charlotte. I was trying to do the comeback. I lost the thread there.
speaking of catnip for Rod, Chad Gable wins a singles title finally in 2025.
What are you talking about? You know better than that. There's no chance. I kind of get both answers there, but there's no
You
chance.
did.
There's no chance. There's no chance. I would love for it to happen, but there's no chance. What is he gonna? The United States Championship? Okay, fine, but no, I don't even think he's gonna win that.
I agree. AJ Lee appears at the Royal Rumble as a contestant.
This is Mrs. Phil, correct?
Yes, correct. Some say Mr. AJ Lee, but yes.
Ah, yeah. I'm not familiar with her game. The only thing I know of her is she was important to CM Punk because she was on that bracelet, which was the worst part of the CM Punk Drew McIntyre feud, as you
Yes.
called out during the Yeah We Knowies. Uh, sure, I'll say yeah, I guess, because the women's needs a shot in the arm. Maybe that's Becky Lynch because we've gotten, she's been in all the Netflix promos, so maybe she does come back. I pray to God that it's Charlotte, but I'm starting to believe that Charlotte's just never coming back. I'm starting to believe that like she's just constantly gonna tease it, come back and just be Edge, Adam Copeland, and like it'll be 11 years before we see her again.
I believe it's pronounced Cope now. His new
Oh, I
is the
heard
rated
that.
R superstar Cope.
That's lame.
I think I would love to see AJ Lee. I even think her throwing out Becky Lynch, a returning Becky Lynch at the Rumble, could set up something at WrestleMania between those two. That'd be kind of a fun thing. Have singles matches all in the family there.
Singles. There you go. Yeah, that'd be cool, right? But we haven't seen. That would be fun for Becky when she comes back, right? Have her and Seth finally do the thing. We've heard a
Yeah.
lot of people continue to like bring them together when they do promos, but like actually bring them together would be cool. I'd like that.
The Rock versus Cody Rhodes is your main event at WrestleMania.
No way. No way, because you've taught me too much.
Dude. Yeah? What? No chance in
Oh,
hell.
no chance in hell.
Gimmicks.
Excuse me. I'm getting too excited there to give my answer. No chance in hell, because you've taught me too much. Whenever the WWE telegraphs something for you that this is where we're going, it never goes there, right? So the fact that The Rock basically came out after WrestleMania last year and told us we're going to fight again at WrestleMania in not those exact words, but that's what he meant. There's no chance in hell that happens.
I'm going to say, what? How can that happen when they haven't done anything with it and there's so many other avenues to go? I don't think it's going to be Rock and Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania.
Do you think Rock's going to wrestle anybody at WrestleMania?
The Rock will face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 41. Rod.
No chance in hell.
Wow. See,
Here's why. Here's why. All right. We basically were teased Rock was going to be back more, right? That was his whole thing, right? And sure, he led up to WrestleMania and he came back after WrestleMania, but that was it. We haven't seen or heard from him again, right?
Sure.
And he does a bad movie in Red One.
That was a good movie. That was fun.
I haven't seen it yet, so I apologize to The Rock. It may be fun, but most folks said that it was a bad movie. So he has that. Haven't seen him. Probably going to see him Monday on the 6th. That's great, but I don't see The Rock wrestling. I see The Rock doing something else and stopping short of wrestling again. I think he got rocked a little bit too much last year at WrestleMania and then realized, whoa, no, maybe I can't do this anymore. So I don't think he's going to wrestle anybody at WrestleMania.
All right. Well, I think he's going to wrestle Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, and that will be the culmination of that feud. Braun Breaker
What
wins.
feud, though? What feud? They're not even feuding now. What feud are you talking about?
Oh, there'll be a feud. Just wait till Monday.
What are they going to fight about?
Braun
Rock going to
Breaker
come out and
wins.
save Solo? Is that what's going to happen?
I think so. Yes.
See, that's lame then. That's lame. The Rock's such a big deal. He doesn't need to come out and save Solo.
All right. Let's go to this one then. Solo Sikoa wins singles gold. Singles gold in 2025.
No chance.
No chance at all.
No.
See, I think they have to because, I mean, even if it's the IC or US, something, he's got to win something because what has he done?
Beat everybody's ass. That's what he's done.
He loses a lot in the big matches, though.
That's fine, but he's not about winning matches. He's about dominance, and they assert their will whenever they really want to. He doesn't have to win.
Speaking of winning, is Braun Breaker going to win Money in the Bank?
No.
No chance in hell.
No chance in hell.
Because
they don't know what to do with Money in the Bank on the men's side anymore. They don't know what to do with Money in the Bank on the women's side anymore. They don't know what to do with the briefcase anymore, period. They need to start working towards a scenario where Money in the Bank goes away. As much fun as I think it is, they don't know how to write it anymore.
Okay, well, then maybe that's something they need to change then in this year is where they write that a little bit better. Because right now, I don't know, the Tiffy stuff has been okay. I think that's been fine.
Sure, but... And I
then
guess
Damian Priest catching in on Drew McIntyre continued one of the biggest blood feuds in the company for the year.
All right, so I was wrong, but I
No, I get you. Cody leaves WrestleMania WWE champion.
Yes, but I'll say this. I'll say this. Yeah. I don't think he goes into WrestleMania as champion.
Ooh, well, who goes into WrestleMania as champion?
Kevin Owens.
Let's go. I love it. I hope so. That'd be great.
Because I still think they could work a scenario where Cody gets a main event match against... Actually, you know what? I take that back. I don't know that Kevin Owens is the one that's going to go into WrestleMania with the belt, but I think Kevin Owens beats Cody and then maybe loses to whoever they want to have a belt at WrestleMania, right? Kind of the way that like Bob Lashley got a hold of the belt for a little bit, and then Brock Lesnar took down Bob Lashley because they needed Brock to have a belt at WrestleMania to take on Roman title for title. So I could see a scenario like that where you and I have been saying we need Kevin Owens to be a big deal. Kevin beats Cody, but then somebody outfoxes Kevin and walks into WrestleMania as the champ, and then Cody gets it back from that person.
And again, the master of the transition, Brock Lesnar returns for one more run in 2025.
No.
Okay.
No.
No chance in hell.
No, because I'll tell you why. What do we need Brock Lesnar back for? If we got John Cena, if The Rock's going to be doing something, right? I mean, I don't think we need Brock Lesnar. I don't know that there'd be a way to write him in, and there's just enough people that will still get up in arms about a few salacious stories that are out there involving Mr. Lesnar, and perhaps the folks at Netflix just won't want to deal with it.
All right, we have 3 more to go. CM Punk main events either day of WrestleMania.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 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 Like that one gif where LA Knight's just going crazy saying it over and over.
Yes,
Yeah.
they finally get it to him, huh?
Oh, absolutely. Come on. What have we been doing by basically making this guy a walking, breathing wrestling god ever since he came back to the WWE if we're not going to put him in the main event at WrestleMania?
Should he be going for the title or should he be the champion?
I think he should be going for the title. I mean, I just think that like you have to, as much as I'm not one of his fanboys, you have to give all of his fanboys their moment, right? The way that we talked about Cody finishing his story, like all the people that have been chanting CM Punk for 8 years when they even thought he might never come back to the WWE, like those people deserve seeing him win a belt at WrestleMania and raising it up. I just threw up in my mouth saying that, but I do.
You think
believe
Gunther makes it all the way there and we got Gunther Punk?
No.
Gunther can't lose again at WrestleMania after a long streak with the belt, right?
I think Punk's gonna fight Roman.
Okay, I think that.
I think we're still gonna play off of that and the whole Paul Heyman of it all. I really do. Like I said, I think The Rock's not actually gonna fight at WrestleMania, and so I just think there's just a whole lot of things that we could do, but I think Punk fights Reigns.
So then going to this, Roman Reigns wins a championship, world or undisputed in 2025.
No.
He does not. No chance in hell.
No, I think Roman goes titleless for a while because I don't think he wants to wrestle enough, and I think they're going to say to him, "All right, if you don't want to wrestle enough, then we're not putting the belt back on you."
WWE has an event in the Sphere in Las Vegas in 2025.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I think that's kind of made for that, right?
Definitely. I mean, how cool are those entrances going to be? Give me Shinsuke Nakamura coming in right now in the Sphere. Give me the Wyatt Six. How much weird shit can they put up on the walls when the Wyatt Six comes out?
And then finally, Tiffy Time fails to cash in her Money in the Bank. She fails at it.
Yeah, give me that because there hasn't been a woman that's failed yet, right? So give me Tiffy Time being the first woman that's failed. I could see that working as a gimmick for her.
Yeah, I don't think there's a chance in hell. I think she's going to win this one, actually. I think she's going to do it. But I can definitely see where you're coming from on that, though, for sure. So that is our what, and no chance in hell for 2025. I'm excited for the year to come, Rod.
As am I, and I want to say this real quick. Joe Tess, I hope that I get to still hear you on SmackDown. From what I did a little bit of cursory research myself, I couldn't find anything that seemed 100% official yet.
There's a post-show on Raw, though, that he's doing, I think.
He's doing Raw as well?
A post-show of Raw. I don't know if it's just on the 6th, but I think there's a post-show thing going on with that.
But still, I hope Joe Tess makes his way over to SmackDown because I think he's done a pretty decent job. I saw he was catching a whole lot of guff the other day for his college football call, but I couldn't help but think Joe Tess has got a little bit too much WWE in him now. And so that's why I want him to stick around the WWE. So let's hope Joe Tess makes it over on SmackDown and he gets to be with both Corey and Wade Barrett. I don't want to see any of these guys lose their jobs. I think they're all actually pretty good at it.
And with that, you've been listening to the We Know podcast, part of the More You Knows podcast network. In the ring with Jimmy and Rod.
Don't you have enough to do, Pat? I mean, honestly, come on. I love you, but don't you have enough to do, Pat? Come on.
Goodbye, net. Yeah. I don't see how he survives Pat McAfee. Like, legitimately. Like, what is he doing?